Today's Wednesday, June 26, 2013, and you are in the NBA Huddle with me, Bram. And with me, as always, my boy and producer, Scott.
Scott here.
And sitting in for the third time, I think, my boy Justin, trapped in Golden State, Taylor.
Thanks for having me back in the huddle.
It's our pleasure, baby. It's been a little while since we last podcasted, gentlemen, so you know we got big things to talk about. In the Warriors update, we're going to talk about the recent hiring of Doc Rivers and Brian Shaw, but look at it from the Warriors slant. Basically, would you want to trade our current coach, Mark Jackson, for any of the available coaches out there, including Shaw and Rivers? We'll go through Festus Ezeli's seemingly secret injury and the fact that the Warriors just announced it 2 months after it actually happened. We'll go through Landry's decision to opt out of his final year of the contract. In the look around the league, we'll talk about the Heat's 7-game series win over San Antonio and the fact that they secured their second world championship in as many years. And finally, in a return to WTH, we're going to try to figure out who the hell is the most iconic Warriors loser over the last 20 years, now that we're kind of good and we can look back and joke about just how bad we used to be. But before we get there, baby, a little bit of housekeeping. Let me get this one right out of the way fast. We are, in fact, still a representative of Uber. Now, last time I spent about 40 minutes breaking down how much I love them. I won't do that again here. Let me just say that if you are hammered and looking for a ride home, Uber is the best move you can possibly do. Don't have to have any cash. Don't have to find a fucking cab. Press a button on your phone. They magically appear. Justin, you ever messed around with Uber?
My wife loves it. My family members love it. I'm not in the city enough to take advantage of it, but if you got time, I'd be more than happy to try it out tonight. You got time for a couple beers after this one?
I mean, I'm always down on drinking.
They're now in the East Bay, so
really,
Uber's coming to you.
Nice.
Let the record reflect, we did not plan that little back and forth right there. Otherwise, that would be hell of canned. Anyways, check out Uber, UBER. Scotty, how's the trip, buddy?
The trip was great. Had a terrific time in Italy. Brought me back to my days when I actually played for the Roma national team for a minute there.
You get around, man. You're on the Stanford women's team. You're on the Roman team. Where else you play, Scott?
At least 90% of me feels like the only reason you either took that trip or made up the fact that you took that trip is so that you could just drop that. You have. Tell us about it. What the fuck does that mean?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, the first weekend I was over, I did a semester there in college. First weekend I was over there, we were by the Vatican, and I see this basketball court set up. I'm like, this is perfect. This is going to be the spot that I'm going to go to play pickup. I get over there. It turns out that Nike's putting on some tournament, what I think is a 3-on-3 tournament.
What year is this?
This is 2002. Nike's putting on what I think is a 3-on-3 tournament. I get my squad together. We get in. We win the first game, and I'm like, who do we play next? Then I realized that it turns out that it's not a tournament in the sense that you go on to a championship. They're really just scouting for the players who are most flashy and have the and-one moves. And this is 2002, so I'm at the height of my and-one move career, where pretty much I'm rolling around on the floor. I'm throwing balls off backboards, hitting people in the face with basketballs.
Basically NBA jams.
Can I find any of that on YouTube?
None of it has made its way to the N1 Mixtape YouTube.
I've actually found it on a different website. It's thatdefinitely-didn't-fucking-happen.com, so you might want to check for it there.
But I ended up getting selected to be on this team, and Nike paid for me to travel down to Naples to represent Roma. And unfortunately, that was a tournament, and we played Naples in the first round, and the refs were so corrupt down there that we got defeated.
Who are you representing?
Roma.
Okay. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Did you go up against Nicolas Skidishvili?
This is the type of shit, like if you went into Taco Bell, do you say burrito when you order that shit? I mean, did you really have to put accent behind it? The other thing I got to give you shit about, I like that I asked you about a trip that you took, last week?
Yeah.
And you told me a story that happened 12 years ago?
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. I just wanted to.
I said it brought me back to my days of playing for the Roma national team.
Well, welcome back. I am glad that you are in a position, or at least in a mood, to explain things, because I actually have something I want to play to you so that you can help me through it. You've been gone for a while. We haven't had a podcast, so I spent a lot of that time listening back to our last episode. Let me play the beginning of episode 26 just so that I can ask you a couple questions about it. Scotty, how you doing today, man?
Good.
Hey, you fired up to be back behind the mic here?
Fired up, indeed. It's been too long.
Okay, couple questions. Let's start with the first one. What was up with that second good? I mean, why'd you say good twice, and why'd you go so deep with the voice there?
I do not have an explanation. I was just feeling good.
I mean, it's really unusual. I mean, Justin, did you listen to that episode?
I did have listened to that episode.
Do you remember thinking that was weird or not really?
That wasn't the point that I hung up on.
Do you remember the point that you did?
You guys always put out plenty of stuff to hang up on, but it's been so damn long that I don't even remember what the fuck you talk about now.
That bothered me, and then the use of the word indeed. I mean, I really don't feel like indeed gets thrown around in conversation that easily, and you dropped it effortlessly there. Something you use a lot, or just kind of came to you randomly?
Boy, this is making me self-conscious to even say anything the way I'm getting psychoanalyzed here. I mean, I was just talking. Stuff comes out. That's what happens when you talk.
Okay. It seemed unusual, even for your own slightly unique speech patterns. I figured I'd ask you about it, but no explanations necessary, I guess.
Good.
Indeed. All right, last housekeeping feature. We mentioned a couple weeks back we are switching over our name. That is still true, but now we finally have a couple of nominations to throw out there. So if any of these strike you, please email us, nbahuddle@gmail.com. Tell us which one you like the best. Here are the nominations we have got. 1, the Warriors Huddle. 2, Warriors Weekly. 3, the War Room. War is spelled with 2 R's. And finally, 4, the War Path. Gentlemen, just quickly, we won't pick one, but any of those stick out for you?
Well, this is the Huddle, and I've been saying since I started listening to the Huddle that it should be the Warriors Huddle, so I'll go with that.
It's factually correct. You did point it out, much like Scott did. Scotty, do you like one of these?
I think they're actually all pretty good, and I'm pretty happy that people are participating in this event. So I personally, I'm a War Room guy. Mainly because I thought of that.
You did think of it. Yeah, you did think of it. I like the Warpath a lot. Also, shot goes out to Justin's spot, Trapped in Golden State. Most of our suggested names came, in fact, from your followers, man. So thanks again.
Hey, no problem. And just so the people who did drop suggestions, whoever did drop the Warriors Huddle, even though these guys were already on it, the first person to drop Warriors Huddle, if that's what they go with, will get a free Dub City t-shirt.
Like to hear it. Let's move on, baby. Warriors update. I won't go through the past scores and current standings because it pissed off Scotty last time. So we'll jump right into the meat of it. I mentioned it in the intro. Let's go through it now. There's been a big coaching search over the last few days. Most of the news is focused on the attempts between the Clippers and the Celtics trying to work out a trade for Doc Rivers. We don't have to go through the ins and outs, but they did in fact sign him. But Rivers is just one of many kind of high-name coaches who were available during this offseason. There's Doc Rivers, there was Brian Shaw, there's Lionel Hollins, there's George Karl. All of these guys, with the exception of Shaw, I guess, have a fairly well-rounded out resume. Would you guys trade Coach Jackson for any of them?
Oh, I don't think so. Doc Rivers would be interesting, but it's kind of nice to see Mark Jackson growing with this team. So I'm kind of okay to just to stay the course and not try to bring in some guy with a whole new system that our young guys are going to have to relearn everything.
I got to backpedal and stop this for a second. Since when can you start trading coaches? I'd never seen that before. That's a weird concept to me.
I read some article, and I'm going to fuck it up now. That's happened one time in the past, and I can't remember the example. And apparently there's crazy rules on it. Like, it can't be a player. It can only be a draft pick within a certain amount of time.
I mean, I love the idea of going outside the box of just trading players. I mean...
You mean actually straight up trading Jackson for a coach kind of thing, or making a move the way the Celtics did?
The idea. What else can you throw into a trade in the NBA? Can you throw in a front office guy? Can you throw in your
training
announcer?
staff? We need Phoenix's training staff.
Oh, give up anything they want. Steph Curry's available for that. I mean, anything we can do to bring this guy in. I don't know, and in fact, I don't know if you can actually trade coaches straight up. Let's say for this question, would you fire Jackson to hire any of those coaches?
Right, or going back to the original premise, would you trade Jackson? No, I wouldn't. I thought it was a candidate for Coach of the Year this year, and no way that would I trade him for a guy who's coming in, doesn't have the chemistry, doesn't know these players,
right.
Doesn't have the same system that worked for these players in the past.
Yeah, it seems more like his success last year. I mean, not just his Coach of the Year candidacy, because George Karl won that shit, and he's one of the people I'm suggesting. But I'm with you guys. 2 reasons. 1, consistency. I mean, over the last, 10 years, we have cycled through coaches at a ridiculous rate. I mean, none of it gets more than like 1 or 2 years. We finally have one system that's been in place, one coach whose word has held for more than 2 years. I think it would be really stupid to break up that consistency now. 2, last year's success wasn't just a product of talent. These guys generally liked playing with one another, and then more specifically, they genuinely liked playing for Jackson. To chance that, even if it's for someone who has a better and more impressive resume, doesn't make sense to me. You know, why fix it if it ain't broke? Why rock a boat that is perfectly working together? So I think we're all on the same page.
Just a slight add-on to that is I always go with the talent. Talent rules out. You know, Mark Jackson was a crappy coach when he had a crappy team. As soon as the talent upgraded, all of a sudden he became a good coach. So, you know, if Steph Curry and Harrison Barnes and David Lee go away, he's going to be a crappy coach again.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But I think we also saw, let me start that over. If you do not have talent, you don't have a team. I don't give a shit who you bring in. Red Auerbach, Phil Jackson, pick your coach. They can't do anything with it. But if you do have talent, I think that the coach can make the few tweaks that can make a difference. We saw in the Denver series. I mean, I think one of the main reasons that George Karl is available is because Coach Jackson kicked his ass.
Yeah. What else you got on your list for today?
You get a little tired of the coach question, or?
Not tired. I just think we nailed it.
Scott's got his wrap it up sign on.
No question. He's also sitting strangely in the corner of the room, which is fucking me all up. Is this not a weird setup for him?
This is
a 3-mic setup. Get used to it.
This is the hard. 3 corners of the room setup we got going on.
He's got the microphones like on the top of this chair. There's all types of weird things going on, but we don't have to look at that. What I would like to look into is Festus Ezeli's knee injury. I'm sure everybody out there knows it. Let's just set the premise up quickly. On June 13th, the Warriors announced a few things. One, they announced that Festus Ezeli injured his MCL and PCL on his right knee in the regular season finale, April 17th, 2013. 2, that he apparently played with those injuries all the way through the playoffs. That's why he had that big brace on. And then finally, 3, on June 12th, he actually underwent a right knee surgery to repair that damage and is now going to miss somewhere between 6 to 9 months. And put differently, is going to miss some, if not all, of the sophomore season. This thing came out of nowhere, man. They didn't announce it till the day after the surgery. When did the Warriors become more secretive than the CIA?
I was just going to say, all of a sudden they're the New England Patriots of the NBA when it comes to announcing injuries. And I was almost surprised they even came out and said it was a knee injury. I almost expected the hockey explanation of lower body injury.
Yeah. Will miss 6 to 9 months, period.
This is a big loss. I hate to see Festus go down like this, and it's real strange the way it happened. Also, the surgery he got, it's weird. It's almost preventative. They're going in to strengthen the ligaments around his knee.
Is this like Andrew Bogut's preventative ankle surgery last year?
Don't you say Andrew Bogut in this conversation, man. Don't you put those two words together and fucking jinx our boy Festus. I didn't read that. So did he not need surgery, or?
He played from April through May with that knee injury. So I don't know.
Maybe. A 6 to 9 month recovery time? Yeah. He needed something.
He needed something, man. I had a couple of thoughts. One we've already talked about. I think I like how secretive they are. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it reminds me of the top tier teams like the New England Patriots. Whatever it is, I kind of like the idea that they're keeping this to themselves. But the second thing that no one is really given any credit for is how tough Festus Ezeli is. We were all shocked about the surgery, and rightfully so, and all of our focus has been on that. But the long and short of it is that Festus played, 12, 13 playoff games through a knee injury that required surgery. And, I won't speak for you guys, but that's pretty goddamn impressive to me.
Yeah, until you put that up against David Lee playing with a torn hip flexor somehow. This is a tough team.
You know what this is? This is opening the door for the resurgence of Andris Biedrins.
Oh, God, you're saying a lot of things out there that it would just be a disaster.
Okay, so that's obviously a joke. But it is a contract year coming up for him. If he wants to play in the NBA the following year, he might even, he might actually show a little bit of heart this year.
I feel like the second that you said the words Andris Biedrins, 3 angels died somewhere. I am so tired of waiting for this guy to come back. I cannot possibly believe in him to do anything outside of what he did last year. Somewhere, this dude's confidence was sucked from him, and I don't know if he'll ever get it back. The one thing I do have, as far as suggestions for Andres, in fact, memo to you, Biedrins, please drop the molester haircut and go back to the Drago 4 thing.
We need the spike.
I mean, that thing was awesome. You looked like one of the most iconic villains from one of the best sporting movies of all time. If he's looking to come back, change his hair back, and on the first game, grab the mic and drop the whole, if he dies, he dies. And we'll all know that this dude means fucking business, and maybe he'll actually step up. Your point perfectly dovetails into our next subject because it has to do with the lack of depth we're going to now have in the front court. Carl Landry announced today that he is going to opt out of his second year of his 2-year deal, a deal that would have paid him $4 million next year. Now, this makes sense. In fact, gravity is less predictable than this actual decision. There is no doubt he played better than the $4 million that he was going to get paid next year.
It still hurts, though, doesn't it? Don't you wish he had just not done it, even though you knew he was going to?
It makes me...
the news came out, I was still kind of sad.
I feel stilted. I feel like I got broken up with. I feel like I want to make fun of his stupid-ass arm celebration thing. I mean, that thing is ridiculous now. But he leaves us short. This hurts us, doesn't it?
It does, and I don't know what we're going to do. There's not much money to replace him right now, so, they are going to do exactly what they did to get him in the first place, though. They're going to wait until all the big names come off in free agency. There's going to be a couple guys out there that don't have a landing spot, and we're going to end up getting a good deal on another guy, so I'm not too worried about it.
I kind of like that. I like that we have a front office now that we know is not going to just immediately panic and pull a Corey Maggette, go get a name just because we needed to pull them in. That's a solid move. I had a shot. I looked up some of the power forwards who are free agents because we got to sign somebody. With Festus out, with Landry opting out, that front court is thin as hell. Here's a couple names. Tell me if any of these stick out for you. This one's for you, Scotty. Andre Blatch, the talented giant bitch from Washington. Brandon Wright, our old boy Joe Campbell, who has since become a much better player in Dallas than he ever was here in Golden State. Charlie, I have zero eyebrows, Villanueva. Tyler Hansbrough, kind of an interesting look. Boris Mantidi Diaw, and I'll give you one more, kind of an interesting one, Kenyon Martin. Any of those stick out for you?
One I didn't hear that's interesting, and it was interesting last year, is J.J. Hickson.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's on your list right there, but I could go for almost any of those guys as long as we don't overpay any of them, and it's only a 1-year deal, so it's not hurting us in 2014. The best NBA player you can have is a guy on a 1-year contract because he's going to play his ass off.
But I want a guy on a 1-year contract who's a little younger than some of these guys, who has a little more something to prove. That's what I thought was great about Landry is he came in with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. I think he was pissed off that more people didn't try to go after him when he was a free agent. And so he really had something to prove. Some of those guys you mentioned, like Boris Diaw, the guy just was in the NBA Finals. I mean, he's going to have nothing to prove if we sign him.
Well, one of the advantages of Landry is that he was mature enough as a player to understand the exact role that Jackson wanted out of him and was able to stay within that. Whatever the coach wanted, that's what he went out there and did. As far as people who stick out for me, I like Andre Blatch, but too much of a head case.
No, do not. I've been there. Don't do that.
Yeah, too much of a head case. I kind of like Brandon Wright. He's become the player they thought he might over in Dallas, and he would, he's limited in what the hell he can give us. He's not going to give us the low post offense that Carl Landry did, but he gives us a whole nother rebounder, gives us another hands around the rim, and would help Bogut on off defense. So
he's like a JaVale McGee type guy. Hear me out here.
You can tell he's about to turn on you because JaVale McGee is a shitbird.
I would not say that he's a shitbird.
He's obviously much smarter than JaVale McGee, but the similarity is that if they're playing 20 minutes a night, they're giving you 20 good minutes.
Yeah.
If they're playing 35 minutes a night, they're giving you 20 good minutes.
No, that's fair.
So Brandon Wright, man, I'd love to have him back as long as I don't got to give up Jay Rich for him again.
And if any of these guys are giving you 35 minutes a night, you are completely screwed anyways. You've already gone in the wrong direction as far as the team's concerned. All right, look around the league, gentlemen. Only one subject that deserves our attention, that being the finals. To organize our thoughts, let's start off just with the watching experience. And Scott, I'm really interested to hear yours. In Italy, outside of just reliving your old Roma success, did you have a chance to watch it in the finals?
No, and I was real disappointed about that. It came on at 2 a.m. I had done a good job beforehand not getting invested in the series, although I failed on the night before I left. I watched game one, and I got super fired up, and I realized I actually do care about this series.
How wrong were we, by the way, saying that we didn't care? What
totally
a
wrong.
Great series right from the jump. What a great matchup.
Once I saw game one, I was
stupid. I mean, it's just ridiculous for us to say that. It was a self-centered statement basically about how frustrated we were that the Warriors are no longer a part of it, but it was great basketball from game one through game seven. But no, didn't get to watch any of them?
No, I came back. in time to catch the end of Game 6 and Game 7. So 2 good games to watch.
You watch all of these, Justin?
Oh, yeah. And were you guys like me? Were you rooting for the Spurs? Did you want to see them validate us a little bit more? Not that we needed it, but
I kept going back and forth. If I had to tell you right now which team I was rooting for, I guess the Spurs. But to be honest with you, I dislike both those teams. They both had so much sustained success that it's hard looking at Tim Duncan, a guy who has, stuck his dick in Warrior ears his entire career, and think to myself, I hope you get your 5th. But it was just as hard looking at LeBron and hoping that his amazing career continues to ascend. So I'm not sure if I was rooting for either of them, but I was still really impressed.
Yeah, root is a strong word.
Yeah.
But the Spurs they play the game. They play it beautifully, and I've never really referred to it like that, but they just play the game the right way.
Yeah.
And if you're a basketball fan and you're not a LeBron James fan or a Dwayne Wade fan, you want to see them put on a clinic, and that's what they did in the games that they won.
That's exactly right. Now, I do want to touch quickly on my own watching experience, but let me address what you just said. I thought one of the interesting subplots of this was the end of Game 6, when this team who we have spent our entire basketball watching lives saying, this is how you play basketball. You want to know how you handle a game? You watch the San Antonio Spurs. They don't make mistakes. They know how to finish what they start. But it was the San Antonio Spurs who pissed away their 5th championship in Game 6. I mean, they made all the mistakes that we always say San Antonio doesn't make.
And we praise Popovich for being an amazing coach, but he made some questionable moves in my mind. The players themselves haven't questioned it, but he had Tim Duncan on the bench at the Game 6.
Right.
Then you saw Miami get 2 offensive rebounds. Then he had Tony Parker on the bench in Game 7, and Tony Parker's come out and said that was the right move, but I still question Popovich's choice there.
And it's the word question that's important. I mean, you can argue one way or the other. I've seen articles saying either way, whether or not Duncan should have been out there because Bosch wasn't. But the fact that we're talking about it, the fact they're like, wait a minute, did they make the right call? And that's in reference to the team that always does, I thought was really interesting. Quick note on the watching experience, and we'll get into all the actual substantive opinions about the game. I had 2 kind of weird ones. One, Game 6, I had promised my wife and my little sister that we would go to a Giants game way back, like months back, before I knew that they were going to be playing the finals on that day. So we're stuck at the goddamn Giants. I mean, I love going to the game. I love the Giants, but not as much as I love the NBA Finals. So I'm stuck. Can't get real reception on the phone. Can't tell what the hell the score is. And then I start hearing people cheer so loudly from the promenade. They must have been showing it. So then I got to start telling my wife and my little sister, I got to go to the bathroom. I had to come up with these excuses to go up there. Either they knew I was lying or they thought I had fucking dysentery, because nobody spends that much time going to the bathroom. So that was awkward as shit.
Was your TiVo broken that day?
I just knew I'd get texts. I would find out.
Yeah.
Was your feature that turns off text messages on your phone broken too?
I'm not going to do that. The text messages I receive aren't only about games. I am gainfully
but you can
employed.
see who you get them from. So
I'm not taking that chance.
I get
Absolutely
emails
not.
when people are mentioning me on Twitter too. So
Yeah.
if you're talking to me about the game, then I'm getting
What?
emails
And they announced it at the game. I mean, when it was over, they had a big announcement in front of everybody. I mean, it wasn't.
there's no way they announced that.
Of course
the
they
Giants
did.
Game.
They definitely announced it.
The Miami Heat have won Game 6.
Yes, that's exactly.
I
I'm
don't
sorry. Which
believe
one of
that.
us was at the game?
That's not true at all.
It's absolutely true. It's an NBA Finals game. Of course they fucking announced it.
No, we will go back and find the tape of that game.
Oh,
and
okay. Good luck with
let's
that, buddy.
listen, because I've never heard the Giants announce a single score, baseball, basketball, football. It just doesn't happen. They don't announce stuff like that.
Have you ever been at a baseball game during Game 6 of the finals?
Yeah, no, I haven't, but I've been to a lot of Giants games during the playoffs of all types of sports.
I'm going to tell you right now. You know what? I believe you. That's great. You know why? Because you're not a filthy liar. Neither am I, asshole. And I was at the fucking game, and they definitely announced it. Second watching experience. I watched the first couple quarters of Game 7 in a bar because I had to kill some time before I went home. And I'm in a room by myself with a stranger. And he's obviously watching the game too. Do you have to bring it up? Like, is there some obligation? We're both watching the game in there. There's nobody else in. Did I have to start a conversation with that guy, or how would you guys have handled that?
If it was a Warrior game, I might have.
All right, but at finals, I'm cool with just
If
drinking
it's two
silently.
teams that I don't give a shit about, then hey, we're just 2 guys in a bar watching a game.
But we kind of we both cheer and then kind of look at each other. I'm like, man, I do not want to talk to you, guy. Don't you say shit to me. Let's just move on to the next play.
Did you guys start talking?
That's why I left at halftime. He started asking me who I was rooting for and shit, and I don't need that conversation, man. I don't need to talk to him.
So if you were there for the first half of the game, let me ask you what the reaction was for my highlight of the first half of that game. The Warriors fan who was standing up in the first minute of the game who got airtime behind Coach Popovich. Tell me you saw that, and tell me you highlighted it right away.
Steph Curry fan, if I remember, he had that jersey on, and then if you follow Twitter at all, it turns out he got taken into the drunk tank. Did you guys see that?
Oh yeah, I was retweeting everything that had anything to do with that guy.
No, credit to that guy, and let's use this as a bridge to actually talk about the game itself, and let's start with the fans. I was really impressed that guy showed up. I don't know about the idea of wearing a Warriors jersey to the Miami game. Did you guys think
I thought it was a great move.
Badass? All right.
It depends what his motivations were, but I thought now we're talking about him here on the podcast, so it worked.
A picture says 1,000 words. It doesn't matter what he was there to do. It was a Warrior fan and a sea of Heat fans, and he showed them all up before the game even started. So, I was all on board. As soon as I saw that guy, I was putting that online just to give him the props he deserved for that. I don't care if he's not a Warrior fan. He is now. He's an honorary Warrior fan now.
It's deserved. The other fan subplot that deserves our attention was the Heat fans' reaction during Game 6. It looked like they were out of it. They were down 5, 28 seconds left. Everybody knows how that story ends. The Heat come storming back. Ray Allen hits a 3, send it overtime, then they win in overtime. But I guess a lot of the Heat fans left towards the end of the fourth quarter.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Thinking they had no shot. They get into their car, realize, turn on the radio, hear that they came back, try to go back into the game, but Miami Stadium has a rule. You cannot re-enter once you've left. And apparently they got so fucking rowdy they had to call the police to get everyone to disperse. After the game, Bosch says, look, if you bounced, don't come back for Game 7. I won't use this as an excuse to further praise Warrior fan who not only didn't leave but stayed to cheer after the game. But my God,
I think you just did.
I think I did too. See what I did there?
Yeah, that was great. I was laughing my ass off because someone sent me a news clip on Facebook of the newscast from that night, and they were showing people coming out of the stadium. Oh, it just wasn't our year, man. It wasn't our year. We're gonna get them next year, man. And then they cut to banging on the glass, watching the TV in the team store, and then the people coming out just screaming, Game 7! It was hilarious. Just the difference in reaction in what, like a 4-minute period?
Great Miami Heat fan voice you had going there. Did you work on that before? No, damn, that came really smoothly. Let's drop a few takes just about the game, and then let's move over to what the hell. Let me start us off. LeBron James. His performance in Game 7 was nothing short of legendary. The idea that he was able to do the exact thing they were forcing him to do and hit jump shots. You could tell right from the beginning of the game, Popovich had told him, back off. The guy hits 5 3-pointers, ices the game with a jump shot with about 27 seconds left. There's no more superlatives left to say about this guy. He's certainly the best basketball player on earth. The only thing that I will add is we can't question the decision anymore. We can question how he did it. Shouldn't have done it, with a national TV special. That's ridiculous. But his call to go Miami, he's been to 3 straight NBA finals, and he's won the last 2. I'm not sure we can give him shit anymore.
Well, we can still question whether kind of the legitimacy of these title victories. He had to go to a team that already had or combined to have 2 more superstars in addition to him versus being able to do it on his own in Cleveland.
Do you hold that against him? Does it hurt his legacy in your mind?
Yeah, it does. Definitely. It hurts his legacy, but at the end of the day, he's still going to be considered one of the greatest of all time. So I would have liked to have seen him stay in Cleveland, win a championship there. Now, his shooting was only rivaled by Danny Green's, who you like to give me a lot of crap for praising, and
who disappeared like Klay Thompson in Game 7.
But up until after Game 5...
I take back that laughter. I don't like that you did Klay Thompson.
After Game 5, Danny Green was being considered as the Finals MVP. So I think, I think I'd trade Danny Green for Klay Thompson.
You definitely would.
Did you catch my tweet? Because as soon as he hit those 6 3-pointers or whatever, I said on Twitter, maybe was Scott right? Only NBA Huddle knows what the hell I'm talking about.
I'd absolutely picked it up. I'm not going to tell you that he wasn't amazing in the first 5 games, but I will tell you he sucked ass in Game 6 and 7.
He did.
What he did, he panicked. Not only did he look like he didn't want to shoot, but he kept taking the Heat's invitation to dribble the ball. They kept pressing him to force him to go in, and he was dribbling uncomfortably. You could tell that's not
when
his
the announcers
game.
are saying, someone needs to tell Danny Green to stop dribbling the ball.
It was awkward watching him do it.
But he just showed up on the scattering report finally.
Yeah.
And that was the main difference. It's just like Klay Thompson. He showed up on a scattering report by the end of that series, and they were keying off him. They weren't letting him get the same wide open shots.
Absolutely. I'll give you a couple other Spurs points that stuck out for me. One, Tim Duncan at 67 years old. He looked amazing. You got to give him credit where it is. The play that stuck out for me, you missed that layup at the end of Game 7. It was a tougher shot than people are giving him credit for. It was kind of point blank, and he did only have Shane Battier. That wasn't what stuck out. What stuck out to me is the emotion he showed afterwards. You never see that guy do anything. He slapped the floor when they went into the timeout. He looked depressed, like he knew that was it, that they had lost it. Do you think that he, not only knew that he had lost it there, but that this window is closed? That was his last shot?
For him.
Yeah.
I felt bad for him, man,
It was
because
weird seeing
that was one of the things that, as far as rooting for the Heat, again, the word root is a strong word, but you want to see Tim Duncan get that last ring because you knew that, yes, this is the last little draft coming through that window. And, he after the game, like you said, he's showing emotion, and he said, that's going to haunt me for a long time. And he knows that was his last shot. Before you guys move on, because I see Scott with his wrap it up button again, I didn't get to weigh in on LeBron James, and I just wanted to say that I was happy to see him play up to the moment, because I can't stand when people want to tear him down because he has a bad play or a bad quarter or even a bad game, God forbid, because he's obviously, like you said, the best player on the planet, and people just want to take every breath he takes as maybe this is the reason we can tear him down. And I hated the decision too, and that bothered me for a long time. It still bothers me about the Heat, but LeBron James is the greatest player in the world, and if you can't admit that, then you should just move on to watching another sport.
I don't think I understand it. I really don't. I don't think I understand why we focus not only the scrutiny but the hatred towards him. When they announced Game 7 at the Giants, and I know this because they talked about it on KNBR, not for me.
That's not true.
They booed him. The whole entire stadium booed when they said that Miami won. And
were they booing LeBron?
They were.
What else did they announce? Did they say LeBron got MVP of the finals and that's when people started booing?
Did you hear me say that I wasn't at Game 7? I have no fucking idea, but I do know that KNBR did point that out. I assumed it was because of LeBron, because he is, in fact, the iconic player from that team. There is a weird hatred towards this guy that I don't remember for anybody. Even Jordan probably had some of the scrutiny. He was one of the best players, of all time, if not ever, and people were looking for holes in his game, but I don't remember this kind of latent, I hope he fails.
The difference is that we're in a totally different age media-wise.
Yeah.
We've got so much media, we got Twitter, we got Facebook, so the scrutiny is so much higher than it was when Jordan played.
What about the hatred?
Why is it higher than Jordan?
Yeah. Let me start that over. Why does such a large population of the sporting populace want to root against LeBron James?
Because of the way that he teamed up, with these two other All-Stars, totally turned his back on his hometown and went off and went to Miami, who is just look at the Miami fans, the whole franchise. It's
a bandwagon town. It's a bandwagon team.
Sure.
And, let's not forget that he was dragging that Heat team through the playoffs like they were the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah,
Chris Bosh and
Bosh
Dwayne Wade, they weren't doing anything for him. They might as well have been Antoine Jameson.
Was D. Wade playing possum? I asked that honestly. For the first 4 games of the series and through most of the playoffs, he looked done as a superstar. Looked
Tony
like
Parker
his
was doing the same thing.
Possibly. And then in Game 6 and 7, D. Wade was D. Wade. Was he holding back? Did he have that super shady German knee treatment that
Miracles
Kobe gets?
of medicine.
Right. Did he go to Balco and get a clear cookie or something? There was something going on there that we'll probably never get to the bottom of, but that really stuck out to me. A couple of other things, then let's move on to the WTH. One, I don't know what happened to Manu Ginobili. Not just that he slowed down, that's the portion of age, but he started making really bad mental mistakes.
Oh my gosh, in Game 7,
so many turnovers, and that's what
ridiculous.
He never made. Like, he would flop, and he would go to the hole and not make it. That's part of his old game. But mental mistakes, that was a weird thing to see. 2, Quali Leonard, let's go ahead and usher him into young superstardom. This seemed to be his coming out party. He was impressive the whole way through. And finally, 3, Ray Allen. I was shithousing him the entire playoffs. I thought he was washed up and done, and he earned every dollar they paid him with 1 shot in Game 6. So good for you, Jesus Shuttlesworth.
All right, let's move it. Let's move it on.
Well, before we do, one last take quickly.
How many last takes have you had?
San Antonio, I think, is done. They don't come back. I think their window is finally shut. And Miami, I don't think they three-peat because I think Dwayne Wade is no longer deserving of a Big 3 title. I think that they are Big 2, if not Big 1, depending on Bosh.
But Scott, you think Danny Green's going to bring the Spurs back to another title?
I think that the Spurs are not done. I do think the Heat won't three-peat.
All right, WTH, a big triumphant return to it. This week we ask, who the hell is the most iconic Warrior loser of the last 20 years? To be honest, I always kind of wanted to have this conversation, but we were too deep in the middle of it. Now that we've had success, now that we can kind of look back like, oh, Jesus, we're not in that dark cloud, I feel like it's a good time to cover it. Quick parameters for your guys' nominations. 1, they had to have played at least 25 minutes a night. Nobody who only played 30 seconds somewhere. 2, they had to play at least 40 games with the Warriors. Again, not somebody who just joined for a week or something and then disappeared. We're going to do it kind of all Huddle style, but instead of going through each position, we'll break them up by categories: guard, forward, center, and then go from there. Why don't we start with guard? Either you guys got a nomination?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna start off with one you probably wouldn't think of, but I'm going with John Starks.
Oh, all right.
He was a guy that came in, one of the many saviors, and actually I want to back up because the owner of the all-loser team is definitely Chris Cohan.
No question. Yeah.
And he was, responsible for, this is the next big thing coming to Golden State. And as soon as you hear John Starks taking over that role, you knew things were going to end badly, and they ended in, 17 wins?
Mine is right in that same avenue. I'm throwing out B.J. Armstrong. Now, not because he sucked. He didn't. He was okay, middle-of-the-road player by the time he came to us. He was B.J. Armstrong. He hit kind of some threes. He brought championship experience, supposedly. But it's because of what he symbolized in the Cohan era. Cohan never just let them hit rock bottom. Never. He always thought we were one veteran person away, so he'd sign some kind of middling shitburger guy to come in who'd get us just enough wins to stay out of the fucking draft lottery, but never enough to make a difference. So he joins people like Mark Price, Derek Fisher, Bimbo Coles, Nick Van Exel, Mookie Blaylock, and John Starks. So he's my pick from the guard position. You agree with those guys?
I think that's you can't put two guys now who have had great NBA careers and put them on your team's most iconic loser list.
Who had a great NBA career?
John Starks, B.J. Armstrong?
Great NBA careers? They kind of rode other people's coattails to a career. I mean, Steve Kerr had a great career in that
exactly.
respect.
They were both solid role players on their team.
Who the fuck is talking about their career? This isn't the most iconic loser career.
I think for an iconic warrior, you have to pick somebody who really never established himself in the league and was just a total loser from the very beginning.
Well, that's great. Who's your pick then?
Montego Cummings.
Okay, fantastic. See, was that hard? You didn't have to shithouse ours. Just give us your fucking suggestion.
We'll start making choices that make sense, so I don't have to comment on them.
No, here's why.
Let's back it up. Let's get your Washington Bullets take on this. Give us a guard from the Washington Bullets. Who would you pick from there?
I'd go Brent Price.
Good for you. I don't want to hear shit about the Washington Wizards.
I'm sorry.
Because that list is very long, too.
Sure it is. What I would like to do is explain why I picked mine. I thought I did a good job.
I think you already
before.
Did explain that.
Well, apparently not, because you didn't fucking understand
it. I understood it. I disagree with it. I just don't think that should be the parameters of... An iconic loser is not somebody who had a good NBA career and just came to your team at the very end.
Montego Cummings was not iconic in any sense of the word.
Nor was he that big of a loser. He probably had similar career to B.J. Armstrong on our actual team.
I think that Montego Cummings...
For me, an iconic loser is someone who helped guarantee more than 6, 7, 8 years of losing in a row. And those decisions, not the player, that's fair, but those decisions is what led to that. But, fair enough. We're all entitled to our own opinions. I'll also throw out the names Yuri Welsh and Bobby Sura, just because any iconic loser...
Those are better. You should have started with those.
No, Bobby Sura is a good one. I think Yuri Welsh is another Montego.
Yeah, that's fair. And how about John Barry, too, just because we're being over-inclusive. All right, how about forward? Since you apparently don't like our selection, Scott, how about you start us off on this one?
Ike Diagu. Terrible. I mean, just a really horrible guy, a terrible draft choice. And that, picking him, I think, really just haunted the franchise for a number of years.
He was the key to the trade that brought us Steven Jackson and Al Harrington, so I won't totally throw him under the bus, but fair enough. I'm going to go... I want to say Brian Cardinal, just because of his terrible nickname, the janitor, but instead I'm going to go Mike Dunleavy. Okay, he wasn't terrible, versatility, whatever the fuck it was, Kamikaze said.
No, he was terrible.
But he was, a number 3 pick, giant bitch, so soft, and he was the skinniest man alive, living in Balco's backyard. He couldn't have gone and got a little clearer. At some point, he couldn't have got a little fucking bigger.
And they drafted him over some guys who became great players. Amari Stoudemire.
Factually correct.
You stole my thunder. I'm just giving Mike Dunleavy a second nomination because, he embodied everything we hate about the players that, we overvalue all of our players, but we hated him from day one. He couldn't be any softer. The only time we ever cheered for the guy is when he got thrown out of a game and threw his jersey into the stands. What does that say about his game?
Do you remember when he used to rock that girl's headband? Remember, for 1 year, it was like that. And there was actually a bunch of people in the NBA started doing it. It's like that weird Euro girl's headband. The only thing he could have done.
It's like a rubber band?
Yeah, it really was. The only thing. He went to a stylist and was like, look, I'm almost as soft as I can possibly look. I need one more piece. I got just the thing for you. Rock this little girl's Euro headband.
The only thing you're missing with that is a tennis racket.
Fair enough. Let me add a couple of other names. We don't have to talk about them. David Wood has to be mentioned. He had hella heart. He also looked like he had Down syndrome, so there was that. Fairly good player, but certainly iconic and probably a loser. Also, Vic Alexandru and Andrew DeClerc. I want to make sure their names get thrown out there.
I was going to throw Alexander in as the center.
Okay.
He was the classic Nelly center.
Just big dude who couldn't do shit. Just couldn't do shit.
I don't know if you heard this story before, but Nelly once told the story about how he would go to fat camp with Victor Alexander in the offseason. And he was talking about how he had girls in the next room, and Nelly didn't get much sleep. It was pretty funny.
There are some terms that make me laugh immediately. Lake Titicaca is one of them. It turns out that fucking fat camp definitely is for me too. I really enjoy that. Let's go into center. This was going to be tough because, my God, has there been an amazing...
Can I start before you steal my thunder? Because you know it's coming. Patrick O'Brien.
P.O.B.
Oh, that stole my thunder.
I had to jump on it. I couldn't get taken out again.
I think I can top Patrick O'Brien, but I definitely have to acknowledge just how much of a loser and what a shitbird he was. A weird looker, too. A very strange face. I just want to throw that out there.
What you hate his face? What was the?
Yeah, fix your face.
Fix
He probably
your
should,
face.
but he doesn't.
Did
get
you
that
just
type
call
of
him a
anger.
looker?
A weird looker. Yeah, not a
weird looker.
Yeah, very weird looker.
Good.
I'm going Todd Fuller. Seemingly very easy, symbolizes not only how soft and terrible we were in the paint, but also the Warriors' continued decision to fuck up in the draft over and over and over again. In this case, Todd Fuller came before Kobe Bryant, who turned out to be a little bit better than Todd Fuller. A couple other names before we get the hell out of here. Zarko Charbakaba. I don't know if you guys remember him. Giant Lucy. Cherokee Parks.
He was a point center.
He was.
Watching him dribble down the floor was hilarious.
Erica Dampier, Tim Young, Ronnie Cycli, Alton Lister. We have had so many.
Well, you're leaving out one prominent name, and I'm going to give him a disclaimer. I'm giving him a little bit of a pass, as well as Todd Fuller. The name is Adonal Foyle. Oh, obviously.
Whoa, bullshit. Friend of the podcast. Bullshit.
Come on.
He's the man. You get the fuck out
He's
right
a friend
now.
of the podcast, but come on now. Let's be honest. You guys can't discredit yourself like that. You can't be...
Best player
you
ever.
You can't play favorites.
Ever.
But the disclaimer is that it wasn't his fault and it wasn't Todd Fuller's fault. It was management's fault for drafting him ahead of McGrady and Kobe Bryant. If they were second-round picks, no one would have ever cared. They wouldn't have even achieved Montego status.
Just to finish it out, you already beat us to the punch, but just say it. The worst GM in the history of the league, not just... Actually, no, you didn't say it. You just said Chris Cohan. Chris Cohan's the owner, GM, unquestioned St. Jean, and then coach, probably St. Jean. And it pains me to say this because I'm a Cal fan, but Mike Montgomery, maybe. All right, all I can say is so good not to have to deal with these players anymore, to have actual
You ain't
talent.
going to let me get a coach in?
I don't really want to, but it seems like you're whining now, so go ahead. Yeah. Well, only if you do it in the Miami fan voice. Go. I was just joking.
PJ Carlissimo.
PJ should be involved. All right.
And he deserved to get choked, as far as I'm concerned.
Probably.
That team sucked.
We have got to figure out the story behind that, but that's a topic for a different conversation. Thank you guys for kicking it. Let me drop a quote before we get the hell out of here. They once asked Antoine Walker why he took so many three-pointers, and without missing a beat, he answered, because they don't have any four-pointers. Huge fun. Hopefully we'll see you guys next week. Please remember, we can be found on Twitter, NBA Huddle, Gmail, NBAHuddle@gmail.com. Our website, letsgowarriors.com, which continues to be badass, NBAHuddle.com, and finally we can be found on iTunes. Anything you guys got to add before we get the hell out of here?
Yeah, let me throw in trappedinggoldenstate.com, and also don't forget about the Let's Go Warriors launch party next Saturday, July 6th at the Alibi in San Francisco on Minna Street. That's going to be big night for us. So definitely come out and come meet everybody on the crew.
Huge fun, you guys. We'll see you real soon. Thanks a lot.
So